Good, thanks.
Now that you have a year under your belt in this role, how has your approach to coaching changed?
It's like another lap around the track. You've gone through the experiences before. It's really it's honestly everything. It's your process of how you're going to get ready for practice, what you need to get ready for. You understand, and it's really being a year with these guys too. Understanding all the bullets that you need to get through a season, to get through a few weeks, and understanding who your players are, trying to work those, trying to work the strength of those players and what you want to emphasize, and really starting from that. But it's really just the process. It's a lot cleaner. You know what you have to do done. You've had a lap around it, so whether it's good experience or bad experience, as long as you've learned from it, you're growing. Gladly, that's what we've done.
What have been the early impressions of Nate Landman in the Pats?
Oh, he's a stud. I mean, just like he was, and you would expect as a big physical presence like that, all through OTAs as far as communication, and he's heavy on contact, and obviously now with pads on, a lot more direct downhill runs. That's really kind of his game, and he's become one of the leaders of the defense, and he's such a vocal guy. He's a glue guy. He can organize the whole defense. He can put a lot on his plate. He's always in the right spot, and yeah, you just feel how physical he is. Obviously, I'm sure a bunch of guys talked about is how he punches at the ball, and I think a lot of guys are following in his footsteps. So we're really happy to have him.
What was the initial report you got from Jimmy Lake on him?
It was good. We had a couple guys that were with him. Dave Ragone was with him. I think his rookie year, maybe his second year in Atlanta, and then Jimmy had him last year. And Jimmy, exactly what he's been. They talked about what a guy he was in the locker room, the type of player he was, and how he's going to be in the right spot all the time, how big and physical he is, and so definitely take Jimmy Scott reporting that.
What do you think about that lap around the track a year ago and Cozy Turner and what he did in the year that some thought, well, can he do that without Aaron Donald and stuff? What have you learned about him as you stand here today? Is there anything that you didn't know a year ago?
He's just such a consistent person. Like, whether it's talking on the field, like if you watch him play in and play out on the field, he doesn't take any snaps off. He has some really, really great snaps, but he barely has any bad snaps. He's playing hard every single play, but if you go to the meeting rooms and when Giff asks a question, it could be the simplest question, he's the one speaking up, asking it right away or answering it right away. And same thing, anytime we do a walkthrough, he's the one making the communication, making all the calls. He's so loud. He's just so consistent every day. So, he's been the same person since he's been here. It's just obviously naturally just with more experience being a captain last year, just taking on a little bit more of a vocal role. But to me, he's just a consistent person. That's really one of the best football players and people I've ever been around.
What went into the decision to have Okello sign during the offseason rather than in training camp? And what do you think he brings to that secondary?
Yeah, that's really more of a question as far as the timing of it for Les or for Sean or anything like that. But I know us on defense, we love Okello, and I think we saw the way he finished the season with us last year and how we operate with him on the back end. Kind of like Quentin Lake and Landman, where he's one of those guys where guys just play calmer and better when they're in there with him. He communicates. He's such a vet. He's like the savvy leader, the veteran. He's almost like the Yoda of that room, if you know his personality. So, we've been wanting him, the whole time. And, as far as the timing or anything, I'm not really sure.
Quentin Lake was saying that the defensive backs, have different objectives every day, but is there kind of an overall emphasis for that position during training camp or an area that you want to see improve this season?
It's always taking the ball away if you just said as a single group, but there is obviously a lot of different things that they're going to be working, whether safeties, corners, nickels, or anything like that, as far as specific things to get better at every single day. That's why Quentin Lake's a stud, but every single day, it's the ball, takeaways, the ball mindset. I would say that thing as a group is something that's emphasized every day.
Could you comment on Josiah Stewart's progress so far?
He's been a stud. He came in, he had a little bit, when he came in after the draft, he had a little bit of an issue with his hammy, so he had to do some rehab, and so it just took him a little bit to get going through OTAs and stuff. And he was a guy we always said, the guys we talked to at Michigan and everything, and said, hey, wait till you get the pads on with him. He's going to come to life. And you saw that on his tape in college. He's a great rusher, but he's also a tough guy in the run, and doesn't take any plays off, and he's been that so far.
It seems like Tyler Davis has raised some eyebrows so far this camp. Like, what have you seen from him?
He has, and it's really, he's just continued to what he did last year. He played really, really well last year. The fun thing about the offseason is, you know, you go back and you look at all your cut-ups, you look at all your things and all these different instances, and you're able to watch it a lot closer. You know, you're not necessarily self-scouting or anything like that, and watch the guys, and he was all over those tapes and playing really well. So, you know, we really thought he was good last year during the season, and I think we gained even more appreciation the closer we watched him, and he's just continued to do that.
Is there anyone's progress that's surprised you over the course of OTAs or training camp?
I don't know. I don't want to say surprised. I think, you know, a lot of guys are doing really well and you know, kind of being consistent and, you know, taking it day by day. You know, I think, you know, some of the new guys with Puda Ford and with Landman, those guys in Forbes, you know, have been it's been fun to kind of integrate them within our system and into our team and into our culture, you know, so it's been fun to go. You know, the other guys, you know, you've kind of been with for a year, and a lot of them, you know, all of them really just continuing to grow, taking it day by day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.